From Software has announced the first expansion for Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, and released a teaser image alongside that announcement. Let's discuss the objective contents of that image, then we can speculate on what might be in the DLC. The blonde-haired individual is Miquella/Saint Trina, and the lore suggests that the two are one and the same, and they are riding Torrent. There is a large Erdtree in the distance wrapped up in what appears to be Blaidd or Deathroot. This image could be depicting the event that created Miquella's Haligtree as we see it in-game. What we know from Elden Ring is that Miquella was an Empyrean, child of Radagon and Queen Marika. Miquella attempted to create his own Erdtree, but the effort failed and what remained became the Haligtree. Perhaps this was the downfall of Miquella's Erdtree. A root of death emerged from the depths and snapped it in two. I get the sense from this image that even though it's static, this event occurred rather quickly. In a matter of minutes, maybe even seconds, the Deathroot emerged from the ground, wrapped around the Erdtree, and broke it in two. What is being depicted is that moment that the canopy of Miquella's Erdtree broke off from the trunk, forming the two major sections of Miquella's Haligtree that we see in the game. This would also explain Elphiel, the stone pillars and walls that surround and serve as the brace of the Haligtree, which is holding together what remains. If we assume that it is Deathroot wrapping around Miquella's Erdtree, then we can infer that the event shown here took place after the Night of the Black Knives, which is when Godwyn the Golden, Miquella's older brother, had his soul killed by a group of Numen assassins that possessed weapons imbued with destined death. This is because Godwyn's body serves as the source of Deathroot. So my takeaway is, unless we are visiting a past memory or another realm altogether, perhaps this is depicting Miquella's dream realm or nightmare, then the most we can say from this image is that the expansion is based around Miquella. This scene is also taking place in a field of wheat, which might be an allusion to Elysium, a paradise for the eternal afterlife of heroes of Greek myth, but it could also just mean that somewhere in the lands between there used to be wheat. Now I do have some speculation and hopes for this expansion given that the focus appears to be Miquella. The expansion image basically confirms that Miquella was Torrent's former master. I would argue that, like other Empyreans, Miquella was granted a Shadowbound beast by the Two Fingers and that it was Torrent. The two other major examples of these shadows are Blaidd, Ranni's shadow, and Maliketh, Marika's shadow. In the lore, a shadow is unquestionably loyal and devoted to their bound Empyrean, so long as that Empyrean doesn't stray too far from their destined path. Now, if Torrent is Miquella's shadow, then it was Miquella who ultimately provided our character with Torrent and the spirit calling bell near the start of our adventure. When Melina gives our character the Spectral Steed whistle to summon Torrent, she says that Torrent has chosen our character. But as Miquella's shadow, Torrent must have chosen our character because we are able to help Miquella achieve his own ends. This is further evidenced by the fact that Ranni gives our character the spirit calling bell because they possess Torrent. It's fair to assume that Ranni was asked by Miquella to give aid to whoever Torrent chose to trust. Perhaps Miquella will be the major NPC for this expansion, a benefactor that, until now, operated behind the scenes, and we will finally be able to meet and speak with him face to face. Miquella had a lot of cut content from the base game of Elden Ring. Based on this cut content, it appears that Miquella's major goal, and perhaps destiny, is to establish a new order in which all things will flourish, whether graceful or maligned. I would bet that the pivotal quest of this expansion will be to help Miquella establish this new order. And that leads into the first of two additions to current content in the base game that I hope we see with this expansion. My first hope is to see a new game ending that is only achievable by inheriting the Frenzied Flame and subduing it with Miquella's Needle, which is a reward you can get from Millicent's quest if you side with Millicent. Right now, the only purpose of Miquella's Needle is to undo inheriting the Frenzied Flame. It does not open up any unique endings to the game, it just allows you to select the same endings you would have had available if you hadn't inherited the Frenzied Flame to begin with. So that is addition number 1, a unique ending to the game that requires Miquella's Needle. My second hope is to see a continuation to Millicent's questline. which is closely intertwined with Miquella and Malenia, Miquella's twin sister. Specifically, if you betray Millicent at the end of her quest, she turns into a scarlet flower from which a scarlet Valkyrie is destined to emerge. I would really like to see that story or questline continued, having Millicent become the Scarlet Valkyrie. Besides that, I am confident that we will get some very cool new areas to explore with a whole host of unique equipment and spells to discover. There may also be some new minor NPCs with completable side quests. I'm thinking of NPCs along the lines of tops or patches. Now these are just my observations and speculations that I'm sharing here with you. If there were details I didn't notice or important pieces of lore I didn't discuss, bring them up in the comments. I'm also happy to read about and discuss additional speculations. For everyone that is familiar with my guides covering the base game of Elden Ring, rest assured I will be covering all things related to Shadow of the Erdtree leading up to and following its launch. So be sure to check back in with my channel, and if you're new, consider subscribing. You're helping me feed my cat. Her name's Marshmallow. Have a great day. If you're here today, have a great Wednesday, and as always, thanks for watching.